Mr. David, tell me what a public defender does.
The public defender is an attorney who represents people who cannot afford to hire their own lawyer. And I've been doing that work for over 20 years as the district public defender for the 13th Judicial District of this state, which consists of 7 counties, including this one. We've handled everything from public intoxication cases to capital murder cases. And the cases that I've been advised that we're seeing a lot of in the court involving Saudi students are mostly rather minor misdemeanors, but still they are criminal cases. And you need to be careful here, especially given that you're not from around here, and will be targeted by some of the local police because you're not from around here, and it's obvious that that's the case. So while unlike Saudi Arabia, it is lawful to drink alcohol in the States, it is not lawful to drink alcohol and then get out in public and behave in a rowdy fashion. That will get you arrested. Other kinds of disorderly behavior in public will get you arrested. But simply being intoxicated and in public, most police officers believe is a crime, and they will arrest you for it. Avoid doing that kind of behavior. Avoid engaging in domestic violence. That is also very seriously forbidden.
And that is an immigration deportable offense. They can send you home for that.
So,
the USCIS can come to your home and say, pack your bags.
So don't even put yourself in a position to be accused of that kind of behavior. Okay? Now then, make sure you've got a driver's license when you drive an automobile. Don't be driving without a license or while in a suspended status. Okay? Also, when you go to court, an officer may stop you, issue you a citation, and you may or arrest you and you may bail. That does not relieve you from the obligation of going to court on the court date that you're given. And I would strongly, strongly urge you to get an attorney before you go to court, so to help you navigate the complications of our court system. Now, I suspect that most of you will be able to hire your own private attorney. Some of you may not. And one of the things to remember is if you're unable to hire your own attorney, to ask the judge first thing to appoint you one. Okay? Does everybody understand?
Yes, sir.
In general, that attorney will be a member of my staff. To handle the 7 counties of this judicial district, when my office is at full strength, it is me and 8 assistants who are lawyers. They operate in the different counties of the district. So those counties are Clay, Pickett, Cumberland, Putnam, White, and DeKalb counties. So in any of those counties, it would be my office that would be appointed to represent indigent people who need representation. Okay? Now, Mr. Fry here is one of our global private lawyers. You can walk into his office, pay him money, and he will represent you. That would be the situation that if you happen to be charged with some offense, most of you would be in a position, I would think, to do that. But again, to repeat, if you're unable to hire your own lawyer, make sure you remember when you go to court to ask the judge to appoint one for you. Now, I want to give you an opportunity to ask questions. If any of you have any particular areas of interest, I want you to ask them.
Any questions?
Yes.
One thing that I would like to bring out, that when we met with the judge, Mr. Wilkerson and Mr. Andrew and I and some other folks from TTU, we met with the judge to try to help everyone, is something that we always need to remember is if something happens with a police officer, the biggest way to make it worse is to argue with them. The best thing to do is say, even if you believe you didn't do it, yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And let the court decide what happened. Because quite often a judge, and I'm sure the attorneys will tell me that will back this up, when they see the list of charges, they know how well it went. Whether it was a cooperative situation or an event where there was a dispute, an argument happened. And I think that is also the best advice for any person who gets in that situation, because most of you are young and not experienced in this. Yes, sir. What do I need to do, sir? Yes, sir. What do I need to do, sir? And cooperate with that officer.
That's a very good point. And one of the ways that you can get in more serious trouble than simply a PI is to get into an argument with the officer that either deteriorates to the point that you're charged with resisting arrest, that is physically opposing the officer, or running away, which is evading arrest, which is even more serious than resisting. So don't get yourself on that slippery slope that leads to that kind of behavior. You will regret it. There is a provision in our law called pretrial diversion. Most of the charges that you would get in this community will be misdemeanor charges. Pretrial diversion is a program that is available for people who don't have a disqualifying prior criminal record. You can't simply walk into court, though, and ask for pretrial diversion. You're going to have a lawyer to get pretrial diversion. But pretrial diversion, what it does for you is it allows you, when you finish with whatever probation the court assigns to you, it gives you the opportunity to have your record expunged, that is removed, so that you end up with a clean record and you don't want to have a criminal record. What you're doing here at this school is preparing yourselves for a better, more educated life. You don't want to mess that up by having a criminal record. So remember that when you think about, oh, I don't really want to go and hire a lawyer. Well, yeah, you do. Because to avail yourself of all the opportunities that the system gives you, you will have to have a lawyer. Any other questions? Very good point. Are there any other points that you think Judge Hudson would want us to address?
One other thing that Judge Hudson did talk about is that, and in our situation, and most of you know, I lived in Saudi Arabia, I lived in Jeddah, and so I mean I've had an Iqama, I understand the system there, okay? The system is very, very different here. Most of you understand that. But the judge cannot help you from the bench. He is there to make sure everything is fair. And I would agree again and reiterate, you need an attorney to be your representative. He or she will know your rights and your privileges, and that's what they are experts at doing. So as much as the judge wants to help you, he's not the king, he's not the prince, he's not part of a tribunal. He's there to make sure it's fair. So again, please make sure you have proper representation, have a point of contact of someone, an emergency contact if something happens. Maybe your brother's in town, he's visiting from Nashville, or he's visiting from some other place, or your cousin's in town. Something happens to them, and they don't know. Make sure they know before they go outside. If anything happens to you, call me. And then you have an emergency contact that you call, whether it's Mr. Fry or someone else, because you do have rights and you do have responsibility. I mean, you do have rights and privileges, and you need to protect them. Okay?
Now, I want to make a point that how many of you here are social science or business majors? Okay, a number of them. My suggestion would be that this group designate some members of those majors to go out into our community and identify 2, 3, 4 lawyers who practice criminal defense law, at least as part of their practice, and develop a point of contact with those people. Pick out some you like. There's a large number of local private lawyers, but develop some, go and sit down, have some of your business or social science students sit down with them, make an appointment, try to get a feel for whether you like this particular lawyer or not, and then get some cards from them so that when your buddy gets in trouble with the police, you can give him 2 or 3 names to refer him to as lawyers that you have visited with and feel comfortable with, okay? I'd strongly suggest that you do that. Also, I'd like to ask, it's kind of a plug for my office, how many of you knew or know Ziad al-Shamari? Okay. He was a social science major here, and he was referred to my office to do an internship. We found him to be a great guy, very cooperative, very helpful, and a wealth of information about the Saudi Arabian culture and all kinds of stuff. He was just a great guy. So if any of you want to come and do an internship with the Public Defender's Office, get with your faculty advisor and talk about it. Any questions?
Do we have to be under social major to get the internship in your office?
Talk to your advisor.
Thank you.
Anything? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Sean Fry. I'm an attorney here in Cookeville. How many people have business law class? Ooh, not very many. My wife is Dawn Fry. She teaches the business law class here, or at least 3 of them. I went to school here at Tennessee Tech. I tell everyone I've lived here in Cookeville all my life. That's not exactly true, because just as you are here in the United States, I was born in Canada. I came to the United States at the age of 2. My father was from London, England. My mother was from Canada. So I've lived here basically all my life, and grew up here in Cookeville and went to school here at Tennessee Tech. I went to law school at National School of Law in Nashville, driving back and forth. And after I got out of law school, I went to work with the district attorney's office as a prosecutor. A prosecutor is the head law enforcement officer who prosecutes cases in court. He would be the one that would prosecute anything. I practiced a lot in front of Judge Hudson, and still do, and I went to speak with him before I came here today, before I was invited by Mr. Brady to come speak. And as I sit here and I kind of look out at everyone and I hear some of what's been talking about, I want to try to assure everybody here, Judge Hudson, law enforcement, they're not trying to pick on any group of people. There's an expression of an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Anybody heard of that? A couple at least. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. No one's picking on anyone. What we're trying to do is, there have been some problems in the court system, and what we're doing is coming together and alerting everyone to it and saying, let's make certain that we put you in a position to where you don't ever come to court. I don't want you to ever be pulled over by a law enforcement officer. I don't want any of you to come to court. Although that hurts my business, I don't want any of you to come to court. However, if something does happen, then I want you to have the ability to understand what is going on and what you need to do or not do. And I have had a couple of clients from here at Tennessee Tech who are not from this country, and a couple from UT Knoxville. Apparently some UT Knoxville students like to come to Cookville from time to time. But situations that are relatively simple to handle in court are magnified because someone doesn't do the right thing. Primarily, they just don't come to court. Sometimes people from different cultures think that when they get arrested and they've made a bond, they've paid some money to a bondsman to get out, that that's the end. They paid some money and that's all they have to do. That's not the way it works. When you pay a bondsman, you pay a bondsman only for him to secure your presence at your court date. If you don't appear for court, he's going to come hunt you down and try to find you. He's going to arrest you and bring you into court, and then you can serve 10 days in jail just for not showing up to court. Now, would 10 days in jail affect your grade point average? But it's very preventable. It's preventable just from the standpoint of understanding the system, that if something happens to you, you do have to come to court. Next thing is you definitely need an attorney. We talk about the judge being fair. The judge is fair. But there's a very skilled prosecutor who's going to try to prosecute the case. If you don't have someone representing you, an attorney representing you, well then how very fair is that system? It's not going to be very fair to you at all, because you're going to be unarmed. You need an attorney to represent you. If you can retain your own, great. If you cannot retain an attorney, you need to apply for a public defender. But you have to have an attorney. The man who represents himself has a fool for a client. Okay? Don't know how well any of these things come off with the language barrier and the cultural differences. But you need to have an attorney to represent you. A relatively minor offense that would be punishable by no jail time suddenly has a considerable amount of jail time just because you didn't understand the system, you didn't know how to navigate it, and you didn't show up to court. With computers today, your name goes into a system, and if you get pulled over for a speeding citation, or you're just out and about in a situation where law enforcement asks who you are, with the computers today, they type in your name and they'll figure out that you didn't make an appearance in court 6 months ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago. You can run, but you cannot hide. Eventually, you'll be found.
And actually, the other thing that we do need to remember is when your passport gets scanned at the airport, let's say you just say, I'm going home. And if there is a bench warrant out for your arrest, and a judge has issued a warrant because you did not show up for his court, they will hold you at that airport and transport you back to the place that holds the warrant on you. Okay, that's something very important everyone needs to know.
All right, so if something does happen to you, I tell all of my clients, and I joke about it, I don't know how well the joke goes over here today, but all of my clients have the right to remain silent. Unfortunately, many of them don't have the ability to keep their mouth shut and keep silent. So you've got the right to remain silent. I tell all of my clients, you be polite, you be courteous, you be respectful, and you ask for an attorney. You don't want to make any statements without your attorney being present. You can't stick your foot in your mouth if you keep it shut. Okay? So, you've got the right to an attorney. Just keep quiet. I tell my clients lots of times, I can't be out there at the scene and keep you from being arrested. If something happens and you get arrested, I can't stop that. What I can try to stop is you being convicted. Just because you get arrested doesn't mean you're necessarily guilty of any offense. And you've got the right to come into court and say that you're not guilty and demand a trial. So, and that's my job, is to try to get together the evidence that's supported for you to show that you're not guilty of any criminal offense. So you've got the right to remain silent. Exercise it. Okay? Exercise it. I don't know how many times I come speak for my wife's class here where I tell people, keep your mouth shut. And then I'd be darned, 6 months later, something happens, somebody gets arrested, and I say, didn't you have my wife's class? Didn't I tell you to keep your mouth shut? Well, then why were you talking? Okay? People oftentimes don't realize that they can just say no. If somebody asks for your car to be searched or for your home to be searched, you've got the right to say no. Now, what did I tell you earlier? You be polite, you be courteous, you be respectful. If you get into an argument with a law enforcement officer who has a gun, a taser, and mace, and can get on the radio and call a whole bunch of his friends in a hurry, who's going to lose? You're going to lose. You don't argue, you don't fuss, but you still have the right to say no. Okay? Now, when they say they're coming in your house anyway, you don't resist. But you still say, you don't have my permission to come inside. You don't have my permission to search my car, search my person, search my house. Okay? But you don't resist. Again, I've had lots of clients who have very simple cases that suddenly become so much bigger because they resisted. Don't resist. Just let whatever happens, happens, and then you come see me. I'll do my best to fix it. Okay? Yes, sir.
What if you resist to search my car or my home?
Then you don't resist. You tell him as nicely and politely and as respectful as you can. He may have a wire on him. Oftentimes, Cookville Police Department, they've got video cameras, they've got these little things with audio. I want it to be on audio that you say, sir, you do not have my permission. Now, when he tells you to get out of the way, I'm coming in anyway, you get out of his way. But when it comes to court, I'm going to win that. If you cower down and you say, sure, come on in, I can't help you. But what did I say? Polite, respectful, courteous. You tell them no, but you never resist. You're going to lose. Okay? Anybody else have any questions? Yes, sir.
I can't make the call date. So, if I got tickets or stuff, I already got tickets, and then I asked that for, do I have to come to court or not?
You need to hire an attorney, and let me tell you why. In our system here in Putnam County, and every county is different, people are typically given a court date on a Monday. And that's a day that you do not have to be in court if you have an attorney. I'll show up for you. I'll get your court date moved. Okay? So if you get a ticket, a citation, or arrested, and it's a court date that you know you can't be there, your attorney can probably take care of that for you. Okay? But if you don't contact an attorney, you don't get it done, you've got to be in court. If you can't hire an attorney, you can't afford an attorney, then you need to be in court. You've got to be in court and ask for an attorney. Attorneys, there is a perception that's a little bit misguided that all attorneys charge you thousands of dollars to represent you. It's not true. You may have to make a couple of phone calls. You may have to look for a couple of attorneys. But you're going to find an attorney in Cookville, Tennessee that's going to be pretty reasonable and can get this taken care of for you. If you've got a court date that you can't be there for because you've got something else you've got to do where you can make money or you've got an airline ticket or whatever, a little bit of money to an attorney can save you a lot more money and let you go and travel and do whatever you've got to do. Lots of times with tech students, they're gone for the summer. I can get your case continued till you come back in the fall. It's not a problem. I can get it done. But you've got to come to me to get it done. Don't panic just because you've got a court date and you're not going to be here. I can get that taken care of for you. Anybody else got any questions? I hope none of you ever need me, but if you do, come see me. Thank you.
Saudi students would like to thank you, Mr. David Brady. Thank you, Mr. Sean, for being with us today and for the free advisement.